Okay, it says that we're live. As to whether we are live or not, who knows? We've got 7 people here at the moment. Somebody tell me whether I'm live, whether the sound is happening. 10 people. So we're getting a little bit more. So we're doing well here. How is everybody this morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is where you are? Lots of things happening here. Just waiting for the chat to wake up. I lost 2 people. There we go. Life is like that. By the way, middle-aged geek girl is not awake at the moment. She is currently sleeping, and I'm going to try to keep the voice down just a little bit. So, anybody awake? Anybody here? Anybody willing to put their fingers to a keyboard and tell me whether this is working or not? Hi, Ralph. How you doing? Good greetings from Connecticut. Cool. No, sorry, that was For Sale is in Connecticut. Ralph is here. Deb's here from Nepaluna. Cool. Lots of things happening. As you can see, I'm not sitting in the place I am normally sitting because, and this is tragic, we seem to be getting a variable number of people here, so that's a bit odd. Hi, Carol. How you doing? Oh, by the way, Dick and Carol's cat Roxy died recently, so sending out love to Carol and Dick. Roxy liked watching my channel for some reason, and she was a good cat, and I am sorry for your loss, Carol and Dick. Yeah, so I'm not sitting in a normal spot, and the reason is, and this is tragic, and you can cry if you want to. My big editing and streaming computer needs to go into the repair shop. There's something wrong with it. It's either a driver issue or there's a virus on it that I can't get rid of. And so I'm saving up my pennies to get it repaired. And anybody who wants to do a super chat, not only do you get the wonderful and ubiquitous fart gun, but I also have my Wunderkammer here, my cabinet of wonders. And if I get any super chats, I will show you one item from my cabinet of wonders. And I've got weird shit in there. There's lots of weird things, unexpected. There's old stuff, new stuff, weird stuff in general. So that's definitely an option anytime we get a super chat. Carol says she did love watching you doing a jigsaw watch. She also loves so much missing rocks. Yeah, I can understand why. Hi, Franny, how you doing? Hi, Dick. Yeah. So yeah, basically, the Wunderkammer is open. I'll give you a taste of the Wunderkammer. What will I give you a taste of? This. How old is this? It's from 268 or 270 AD. And it is, yeah, hi, Debbie Cupid. No, you didn't miss anything. We're still doing it. This is a hint of what's in the Wunderkammer. This is from, we'll say 270 AD. I've got a Roman coin. Now I'm trying to hold it up so you can see it. It's a dodgy old Roman coin from 270 AD. That's the kind of stuff I've got in the Wunderkammer. Weird and wonderful things. And I'll put that back in this little sleeve. Friday says, I'm good, just checking my Kingsman DVD hasn't been edited. Was there an edit on the Kingsman DVDs? Oh, is that because of the anal stuff with the princess? Who knows? Yeah, Carol says very cool. It is very cool. I like that. I picked it up in Stratford upon Avon once upon a time when the world was young. It was edited. Okay, it was about that, was it? Carla Dick, sorry about Roxy, says Deb, because Deb is a big cat person as well. So we've got a lot of that going. Lots of movie stuff to talk about on the channel as well, and TV stuff as well. So I'm not differentiating these days because, to be honest with you, streaming service is like an episodic movie these days. The definitions are blurry. We watch a lot of movies on our big screens. We also watch a lot of TV on our big screen. So I'm doing less differentiation on these things. Yeah, so the weather is starting to turn, and the days are getting a little bit shorter. It's getting a little bit cooler. It's not cold yet, but it will be soon. So we're bracing ourselves for that. The Oscars are on today, and I've actually seen a number of the films that are nominated, which is a little rare for me. I tend to watch them after the Oscars more than anything. I don't necessarily watch the ones that won, but I definitely watch the ones that I'm kind of intrigued by. But this time around, for some reason, I've actually seen a number of the movies. I've seen Sinners. I've seen One Battle After Another. I've seen Blue Moon. I've seen The Secret Agent. I've seen a bunch of them. And to be honest with you, leaving aside whether the Oscars are a good thing or not, and I've got some feelings about that, a bloody good year. It is a good year for movies. And I like that. And I like the fact that there are movies that are addressing current zeitgeisty things. I like the fact that we've got a diverse range of movies, and we've got not only an ethnically diverse range of movies, but we've also got a movie from Brazil being nominated for a lot of Oscars, The Secret Agent. Love that stuff. It should happen more. We've even got a couple of Australians nominated as usual. Rose Byrne's nominated for Best Actress, for instance. But as far as the Oscars are concerned, I'm not in love with them. It's not something I hang out for every year, particularly. Yes, if somebody slaps somebody of something, if we get a streaker or we get something else unusual happening, I'm going to pay some attention to it. But I'm not going to invest that much in it because I've been disappointed a lot. There are movies that I've totally loved and I wanted to win the Oscars. And for some reason, somebody chose a bland piece of shit with no redeeming value. That happens a lot. I mean, I started going like that for the Oscars when Say You, Say Me won for Best Song. Lionel Richie got an Oscar. I thought, that was not the best song that year. Screw you guys. So they've lost credibility with me a long time ago. Carol says, okay, that was a weird advert, came up as a split screen and muted me. It muted me. Maybe there are live subtitles, I think, on live streams. I'm not sure. That's weird, Carol. What was the ad for? Tell me. I want to know what the ad was. I'm kind of intrigued by the ads people get. I'm getting all sorts of weird ads on YouTube for things like oat milk. I'm not going to drink oat milk. I don't have milk in my coffee. Why would you send me an ad for oat milk? Hi, FG. How you doing? Water Aid. Is that something that makes water taste better? Yeah, ads are weird on this platform. And I get things for like Cadillac cars. Like I could afford a frigging Cadillac. It's weird. By the way, Franny, tell us whether the DVD has been edited or not. Because I'm intrigued to know. Let's have a look here. I've done that. What kind of... Now, a charity that sources water in the third world countries. Okay. Well, at least it's an ad for something that's a positive step. It's not like an ad for oat milk like I get, or Cadillac cars, or I'm getting retirement homes. So screw those guys. I've got a retirement home. It's where I live. That's where I'm going to be until they take me up by my feet. Ralph says most advertising is intelligence insulting. Yeah, it's lowest common denominator stuff. It always is, Ralph. But what can you do? It's the nature of the beast. And to be honest with you, I shouldn't whinge about it too much because it does pay the bills. It pays for the channel. And that is in itself a good thing. But, I mean, the ads come up. Carol says we get loads of funeral plans in our ads. That's a cheerful thing, isn't it? I mean, I feel less bad about getting oat milk ads now that you're getting funeral ads. Screw that stuff. It's whoa. Next up, it'll be ads for euthanasia. Who knows? But I want to see that in a science fiction movie where they do have ads for euthanasia on big flat screen TVs. I'm going to see some movies this week. I've actually got a very, very busy week up ahead as far as movies are concerned, because I've got to do at least twice as many videos as I normally do. Because next week I'm going to be away from the keyboard. I've got something I've got to do. I mentioned it in the last live stream. I'm not mentioning it again. I've actually edited that out of the replay of the live stream because I'm not supposed to talk about it. But it's something that's going to take me to the city for at least a week, possibly 2 weeks. If it ends up being 2 weeks, I'm going to see what I can do about keeping videos up to the channel. It's going to be a bit challenging, but pretty much between now and next Monday, I'm going to produce a video a day to keep things running and keep all of you happy. So it's going to be a very, very busy week. And so I am going to see movies. I want to see, it comes out on Thursday here, I want to see Project Hail Mary. There are a few other kind of in my wheelhouse movies that I want to see at the local cinema, so I'll just pop down there. It takes about 10 minutes to walk down there to the multiplex, and I'll be seeing that. But I will be reviewing Project Hail Mary for, I don't know whether it's going to be this Science Fiction Saturday or next, but one way that I'm reviewing that one. Carol says, most of what we watch is aimed at older people, so they get pee pants, funerals, pensions, etc. D. Lee says, as Dave Allen once said, advertising wants you to think that a group of intelligent adult women sit around discussing the texture of toilet paper. Yeah. What else do I get? I get a whole bunch of different stuff. I get Australian superannuation ads and things like that. I've spent all my superannuation. It went to the bills. But there's a lot of those kind of things. What do I want to get ads for? If I were to pick the ads I get, I do get some from imprint films. I'm getting some ads for them because I do talk about them on my channel a lot, and I watch their ads. And I'm getting a little bit from Umbrella Entertainment as well, which is kind of cool. I will support those ads. They're nice people. They do right by the channel. They've got an interesting bunch of products. Carol says superanimation. That's superannuation. Basically, when I was working, I was by law, businesses have to pay you 12% superannuation into your superannuation account, and you can top that up yourself. Unfortunately, most of my early working life, there was no superannuation, so mine was kind of minimal. But it's a legal thing in here in Australia, and it helps people out a lot. But I'm kind of out of that loop now. My superannuation is a YouTube channel these days. But yeah, like a pension kind of, Carol. And after you retire, or you can hit it before you retire if you turn 65, you can access your superannuation. So there's that. Ralph says, I realized recently that Umbrella is a partner to Vinegar Syndrome, so we can get some of their releases in the States. That's kind of cool. D. says, Singing in the Rain, the original Umbrella Entertainment. I think there was some stuff with umbrellas in what was it? Gold Diggers of 1933, so it predates that. I've got a little bit of a movie haul. You want to see the movie haul I got? Because I went over to the posh side of town. I dropped Sal off for a gig she has at a friend's place. And I went to the posh suburbs, Bentley, which is like $3 million bungalow kind of area. And so I've got a movie haul. It's not extensive, but I did get one thing I'm really, really pleased with. And the weird thing is prices varied a lot between the different thrift stores in Bentley. And there are about 6 of them all along the one road. Like 1 kilometre, you get like 6 different thrift stores. And it's kind of cool. First thing I got, which I've actually watched, and is kind of like a Stanley Donen film. Yeah, Dilly, Gold Diggers is a great film. I should rewatch it, to be honest with you. But I watched this one, and it's kind of like Stanley Donen, who directed this film, wanted to get the same acclaim he got for doing Charade. It's arabesque with Gregory Peck and Sophia Loren. And it's bad. It's not a good movie at all. I watched it. Sophia Loren was beautiful, but in this one, she's kind of cashing the check. Gregory Peck is miscast in this film. It's mostly set in and around London. It's got that 1960s conceit where you got brown face Anglo-Saxon actors playing Middle Eastern people, and you've got an Italian playing someone from, I don't know, Tunisia or somewhere. It's supposed to be really cool and hip. Stanley Donen did some interesting directorial bits in this film. There's some really nice direction and art design. But yeah, Sophia did phone it in, absolutely. But I watched that. It cost me $1. So, yeah, it's not staying in the collection, this one. I'm going to talk more about that in a moment. But I watched Arabesque. Let me have a sip of water. That one, by the way, is an umbrella release. They released it. It is widescreen. It's just DVD definition. This one's weird, and it took me and Sal a bit of research to figure out what this is, but it was $1. So I picked it up, and I didn't know what it is. It says Yigal Masika Tarantula. And it was $1, so I thought, this is weird. I'm going to get this. Here's the thing. What this is the instruction DVD for a boxed magic trick, which is not included on the shelves when I got this. It's how you do the magic trick. Because there's the magician there. And he made an instructional DVD on it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I bought it on the off chance. Sal and I did some research. And there she is again. And it is an instructional video for a magic trick that requires you to have the wherewithal to do the magic trick. So I got that. Again, don't know what I'm going to do with it. This one I didn't have. I checked my database because I'm trying to be good with that. I checked my database and I didn't have a copy of this particular Hitchcock film. And that film is Notorious. I did not have a copy of Notorious. And this is a Taiwanese pressing of the film. And they're usually pretty reliable. I've got a few different Taiwanese films. What was this one? This one was $4. I paid a little bit more for this one. But they're reliable. They are legit copies. But they were just pressed and for the market in Taiwan. So I got that. Ralph says, is there such a thing as a little free library in Australia? You could turn your local little free library into a blockbuster by putting DVDs in it. We do have people who've got individual libraries outside their houses, and in some country towns they have those little libraries, and in some posh suburbs. I could put one out the front, but I would have to make it, and I'm not that good with carpentry. But we do have them around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find a suitable charity store and throw those things back at them. But I'm glad I got Notorious. I wanted to rewatch it again. I watched it a number of times. I think it's one of Hitchcock's best. And so I've now got a copy of it until I get a better copy. Then I got this, which I'd watched, but I didn't have a copy of. Again, I checked the database because I'm a good boy like that. This was another $4 one, but it's worth it. It's got special features in as well. Richard Attenborough in 10 Rillington Place. About John Christie, I think it is, a serial killer. Good movie. I watched it about 5 years ago, but it wasn't in the database. And I picked this one up for $4 again. It was one of the $4 ones. It's a special edition with extras. It says, Introduction to the DVD by, and I'm going to quote here, Lord Attenborough. I don't believe in honorifics. Give me the person's name. I don't want to know how some unelected person gave them a gong. I don't believe in lords and ladies. I don't believe in kings and queens and princes and dukes and earls. Don't believe in any of that stuff. But it does have a bunch of commentary, including John Hurt's in there. But this one was $4 again. Worth it. Carol says, we have those here too. We call them book nooks. I give the books I read to Richard's colleagues for her one. Yeah, and they're good. We're getting a lot of really ordinary books in them these days. I don't know whether I'm just getting to them after the good book's gone, but you get a lot of travel guides for places that have changed enormously since the travel guide was put out. Deb says 10 Rillington Place is quite a score. Excellent film. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one I'm going to keep in the collection. The last two are the best ones. And I got these for $1 each, just one Oxford Scholar. And I'm glad I did. It was the first op shop I went into, big corner store, big signage, bold and brassy. Kind of gender indeterminate person at the counter, which I always liked. Got Paris Vue Pas, which is a whole bunch of small films by Godard, Chabrol, and a bunch of other French directors. There's the back of it. Haven't seen this. And I'm intrigued because, you know me, I like my French cinema. But I got that for $1. And I thought, good bargain. And I looked through, there wasn't anything else really great apart from the other thing I got from them. Franny's got an update for us. I can confirm that my Kingsman DVD is Humour Intacto. Sorry for my delay. Had to add the DVD playback features of this laptop. Good. I'm glad you got an unsullied version of the Kingsman movie. But here's the other thing I got for $1. And it was wrapped in the original plastic. It had not been touched. Like Franny's DVD, it was version intacto when I got it. I Claudius on DVD. I got this for $1, the whole series. Sorry, that way around. And I'm very happy with that. Fantastic series. Incredible acting, incredible editing, incredible writing. I'm going to be dipping into this when I finish The Night Gallery, which I'm watching at the moment. But I got a perfect copy of I Claudius on DVD, which I am very, very happy about. One of the great TV series of all time. That's the end of the haul. That's what I got at the moment. But very, very happy with that. Yep, iClavdiv says Franny for the win. Yeah. And yeah, and Ralph Hodge loves Claudius. Yeah, so I got that. And Deb says, Claudius is brilliant. Fantastic pickup by me. I spent about an hour wandering up and down the road getting those. D. Lee says, I got a copy of Brewster McCloud coming my way from the US. Haven't seen that in decades. Yeah, I like it. I like Altman films. I don't think there's an Altman film I don't like. And just to iterate again, I won't do this too often, I promise. By the way, give the video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. If you do a super chat, you not only get the fart gun, you get a display of something in the Wunderkammer, my Wunderkammer thing. And I will show you a photo of the no, I can't do it because my phone's elsewhere. But I do have a bunch of Wunderkammer stuff here. And it's random as hell. Things I put into this little excuse me, this little case that I've got where I keep all of my treasures is fantastic. Carol says, cool, Richard picked up Claudius for me, so I'll see it at some point. Yeah. Good stuff. I really like the fact that I got that. And that's one of the nice things about shopping in op shops, thrift stores, whatever you want to call them. The randomness of what you find. You've just got to have a mindset of, I'm going to see what's here that's good. And then you go for it. Dilly said, Claudius had so many great performances, also great direction and blocking. Yeah, I've seen the video about how good the blocking is on Claudius. When they had fairly small sets, and yet they did the blocking of the characters wonderfully. The only other thing I've seen with better blocking is Kurosawa's High and Low, which has like God tier blocking in it, particularly in the apartment, you know, the house on the hill. Kurosawa just went next level with the blocking in High and Low. So let's see where we are. Yeah, Franny agrees the blocking is fantastic. And I'm looking at blocking more often these days. Let's see. Next thing. Is anybody watching Star Trek Starfleet Academy? Because that series is doing some things that Star Trek has never, ever done. DB Cooper, $1.99 US. Here we go. First of the super chats. You ready? Here's the fart gun. Now, what Wunderkammer thing will I reveal? This one is unusual. It's a rock. It's a rock from New Zealand, from Lake Taupo. And I found this rock. We were staying at a hotel near the shores of Lake Taupo in the middle of the North Island of New Zealand. And all night, you could hear a grinding, clicking sound. And we didn't know what it was, but it happened all night. We were in a motel near Marae, which is one of the meeting groups, one of the meeting areas for Maori people in New Zealand. Couldn't figure out what the noise was. We thought, is it coming from the Marae or is it coming from the lake? So the next morning, we walked down to the lake, and for 2 meters from the shore to into the water, these were floating on the water. They're pumice stones. They weigh almost nothing. And because it's a volcanic area, right near one of the big volcanoes in New Zealand, these click on the shore all night long. If the wind is blowing in a particular way, they get blown by the wind on the surface of the lake, and you can float them in a glass of water. It's pumice. It is incredibly light stone. And that's one of the things I've got in the Wunderkammer. Put that back in the Wunderkammer now. Friday says, don't forget rope for blocking. Yeah, rope's got good blocking in it as well. Ralph says, there's a local flea market here they used to go to every weekend, but it's been decades since I visited. And now a land developer wants the land. Yep, they're bastards, aren't they? DB Cooper says, the money is for the op shop fund. I'm actually saving any money I get from the super chats to get the big computer fixed, because there's a glitch with it that I can't handle myself. I've reinstalled everything, but the glitch is still there, which I think it makes it a driver issue. And I've got to take it down somewhere and get it looked at. Deb says, I think Rope and Claudius are both top tier blocking. Yeah, high and low as well. They would be the top 3. Friday says, just watched the finale. Best first season of any Star Trek show. So happy they filmed season 2 already. Yep, I'm going to talk about that. Starfleet Academy does something that no Star Trek series has done as well before. And that is, the acting is this level. It is the best scripting and acting. There's a scene in the 10th and last episode of the first season. You got Paul Giamatti, you got Holly Hunter, and you also have, who's the third person I'm trying to think? Who's the third person in that scene? It's early in the morning here. My brain's fried. I'm looking through the chat. It's got Holly Hunter, it's got Paul Giamatti, and Tatiana Maslany. All 3 of them in one scene at a mock trial done by Nus Braka, the alien played by Paul Giamatti. And the acting in that scene is like nothing you have seen in a Star Trek series. It is full of emotion, it's full of passion. The dialogue carries it along. It's just the best scene in a Star Trek series ever, bar nothing. It is tremendous. And these 3 incredibly consummate actors playing off one another just blows you away. And that's all the way through the series. Paul Giamatti in Starfleet Academy needs a fucking Emmy. and so does Holly Hunter, and so does Tatiana Maslany. Even the ingenue, like the young people playing the students in Starfleet Academy, are doing fantastic acting. The writing is all crisp. The acting is fantastic. The direction, and again, the blocking, just mind-blowingly good, and so much better than a lot of the other series of Star Trek stuff you've seen. You've got to check this out. And yes, season 2 has been filmed, and it is just, if you like good acting and you like good dialogue that carries the characters and carries the plot, you got to watch this. It is, ignore what the fanboys are saying because they have a gay Klingon in it. It is just the best. Forsail has a piece of the Berlin Wall, but got lost during a move. Yeah, I hate it when that happens. Yeah, and Friday agrees with me about Starfleet Academy. And Carol says, hearing odd noises all night in a motel. Yeah. The motel was weird too, because this was a long time ago. And because it's near a hot spring, they had a big, deep bathtub, like a kind of jacuzzi thing. And you could get the water from the hot spring hot by just turning on a tap and filling your jacuzzi with spring water at a hot temperature, and you just add some cold water to it. New Zealand is a fantastic place. Fantastic culture, fantastic cultures. Indigenous culture is very mainstream in New Zealand. The Māori culture is fantastic. Friendly people, wonderful place. Recommend you go there, but don't worry about this Lord of the Rings shit because it's touristy. Yeah, Friday says Tatiana Maslany. Absolutely. Tatiana Maslany is fantastic in this as well. Well, when has she been bad in anything? Deb says, I'm thinking I might get a Paramount trial so I can watch Starfleet Academy. Do. It's worth it, Deb. And you just revel in the plot lines are great, the characters are good, and it carries things along wonderfully. Friday says, Sam's arc is fantastic and so well performed. Yeah, in Starfleet Academy, absolutely. The younger actors do an incredible job. And there's people like Tig Notaro in there as well. And Robert Picardo playing the Doctor again. Just God tier level everything in that series. And I'm not usually a gushy fanboy about Star Trek stuff. Star Trek Disco left me a bit meh, and Star Trek Picard was just the greatest hits version of it. But Starfleet Academy brings a lot new to the plate. They're celebrating the 60 years of Star Trek, and I think this is a good way to do it. Donna Pass Whiskey says the best Star Trek the last 30 years at least is Prelude to Axanar. Unfortunately, it was a fan production, so good the studio sued them and put the brakes on all fan production. Yeah, I've seen Axanar, but to be honest with you, Starfleet Academy tops it. Axanar was good. I'm not trying to throw shade on it, but this stuff is what you've got to watch. This is the good stuff. Carol says, man, that sounds fabulous. Sadly, unlikely to get either Oz or New Zealand due to cost. Yeah. And due to the fact that between you and us, there's a war going on. And I'm not getting into that for political reasons, but what the actual fuck, Friday says to Deb, you won't regret it. There's an offer of £4 a month for 3 months in the UK. Yeah, I mean, they do have some tasting samples. That's why I was thinking of getting Apple Plus as a tasting thing and then ditching it later. But Starfleet Academy, totally worth it. Carol says, hopefully Academy will get a physical release so we can see it. They'd be silly not to, is my opinion, for the simple reason that the quality is there. And I think if the Emmys next year don't acknowledge how good this series is, there's something wrong with the process. But yeah, it is fantastic. I totally recommend that you check it out by whichever means possible. The other thing is, I'm going to tell you what I did yesterday. Yesterday I went to the supermarket, which I tend to do on a regular basis. But this one kind of touched me. Went to the supermarket. It was a warm day, so I'm like T-shirt and pants, thongs kind of thing. By thongs, I mean no, jandals, whatever you call them where you are. And it's a very busy day at the supermarket because a lot of the local Muslim people were stocking up for food for Ramadan, the end of Ramadan. So I was very busy. And I'm there at the checkout scanning my stuff. And some guy goes, "Hey," and points at me. And I go, "What?" And then I realized I was wearing this T-shirt, which I'm not going to lift up, but it says "Protect the Dolls," which is a T-shirt acknowledging trans people, particularly trans women. And the person was pointing because it was a trans man. And there's not many trans people where I live. Just pointing out and acknowledging the fact that I've got a Protect the Dolls T-shirt on. And it was then I kind of realized being an ally is really important. People knowing that other people have their backs is incredibly important. And it was this nice moment, which I thought at first was, my fright and flight kicked in, but it was actually an acknowledgement of me as an ally. And I totally feel jazzed by that. I think I don't do it to get any acknowledgement. I do it because I think it's right to support LGBTQIA plus people. But this was an acknowledgement of that I wasn't expecting. It really made my day. Carol says, flip-flops, very busy here too. Yesterday was Mother's Day today. Okay. We have different Mother's Day. I think we have different Father's Day as well. Father's Day is a bit fraught for me, but I understand what you mean. Deb says, that's awesome. Yeah, the Protected Dolls thing was fantastic. For Sale says, Gene Roddenberry was a guest at Star Trek convention I went to back in 74. He was so overwhelmed with the audience response, he cried tears at the podium. Cool. Deb says, I've got a new badge on my bag, a little cap on a rainbow flag. Cool. And down where you live in Tasmania was one of the last places in Australia to decriminalise homosexuality as well. There's a long history of that. Queensland and Tasmania were behind the game. But eventually we prevailed. And actually, when same-sex marriage was legalised in Australia, I was in Nipaluna. I was in North Hobart, about to go into the movies. And I was just listening to the radio on my phone and had a happy day. Deb says that her badge gets a lot of positives from total strangers. Yeah, we do. And I think the more normalised support of our diverse brothers and sisters, our siblings too, the more that's going to happen and the more our world becomes a better place. Carol says, yeah, we don't really celebrate Parents' Day either. All of our people are passed on and we don't have kids. Yeah. I mean, I acknowledge my mother on Mother's Day because she went through a hell of a lot. I'm not going into details, but she went through a hell of a lot. And yeah, but Father's Day for me is a very fraught one. It's a very difficult day for me. And I acknowledge that for other people for whom it's difficult as well. But yeah, so let's see. I've got a list. I told you I had things to talk about today. Deb says it was illegal for men to wear a dress in Tasmania until the 1990s. That would have made drag queen story time a bit difficult, wouldn't it? But yeah, Tasmania and Queensland were the least generous states of Australia at the time. I'm trying to be nice about them because I've got friends in both places. Western Australia I love too, but Western Australia is weird because the mining industry owns so much of it that it's a very problematic thing. And also there are a few nut jobs trying to get Western Australia to secede again from Australia. And the money for that is coming directly from the mining industry. Carol says, the first trans person I saw didn't twig it. I didn't twig it first, but then was super impressed by how they could walk in such high heels as no way I could. High heels are weird. I mean, I always wince when I see people in high heels, whatever they are, mostly because they seem fucking uncomfortable. Deb says, before 6 p.m., as I recall, I remember going to see. Cool. But, yeah, I mean, high heels are weird. I'm not a fan of them. Four-star says, high heels can murder your arches. Yeah, it's I'm big on comfortable shoes. I mean, I went for a whole year once when I was a teenager, when I was going through an incredibly bad time, where I didn't wear any shoes for a year. I literally did not wear shoes or sandals or anything for a year. And fortunately, I was living in Sydney at the time, so the weather was clement. And so I got the most thickest soles on my feet. I didn't need to wear shoes. I could walk across bindies, which are these little thorny things in the grass, without a problem, because my feet grew a layer of hardened horn-like skin. And I kind of miss it in a sense. Having feet that can walk across anything, I miss that because they got softer as I wore shoes. But for 1 year, I had the perfect outdoor feet. Carol says, I can't even stand in heels, never mind walk around the supermarket and make it look easy. Yeah, it's a bit like tightrope walking, isn't it? But yeah, let's see what we got. I'll talk about this next. Here we go. I've got a lot of movies, as you know. I've got some of them behind me. I've got more in the other room. They're scattered all over the house a little bit, though I have cleaned up a lot of that. And there's been a discussion in movie groups of various kinds about how you manage a metastasizing movie collection. And I've kind of come to the decision based on advice and based on what I'm seeing from elsewhere that here's what I want to do. There's a movement called curating instead of collecting, which is you get movies, you get a ton of movies, and then you curate them. You go, is this a reflection of me? Is this collection something that reflects me or just reflects my urge to where you could not? Okay, I may be buffering here. Let me know if I am. Deb says, I love you guys for a minute. I remember seeing Earthy Kit live in a casino with a guitarist, wore a three-piece suit, and he wore a dress, no heels, and full makeup. Cool. Friday says, high heels are more comfy for me as I have no arches, twisted hips from birth. Does not make walking or standing still painful, though. Yeah, I suppose there will be variations of that. Are we stable again now? Let me know if we are, because I've got this computer closer to the router and the modem than I normally have. So hopefully we're doing okay with this. Stable says for sale. I'm willing to believe Connecticut. D-Lee says Queensland once run by Joe Bjelke-Peterson, who was the subject of a mocking song by the Stranglers. Yeah, I just when Joe Bjelke-Peterson was the premier of Queensland, I made a vow not to go there until he wasn't. D-Lee says there was a bit of buffer. Stable now, good. Let's keep our fingers crossed. And I just closed the lid of my Wunderkammer, which is a steel box, so it wasn't blocking the signal. So hopefully we're going to be hunky-dory here. But yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm curating the collection. I'm going to go through it over time and find a way to refine it, make an au jus collection of movies that reflect me, movies that I'm going to want to watch again, movies that maybe reflect my history as a movie buff, the things I watched and enjoyed at a particular time and I still have a fondness for, and get rid of anything that's kind of prosaic and not my current taste. So I'm going to be going through that process probably for a few years of refining my movies and making some decisions. There are things like, what kind of movies really matter to me? Which particular movies really matter to me? And why? And I'm going to be asking those questions of myself. And how do I feel when I browse the shelves? And I feel pretty good generally. I grew up in a movie desert. When I was a kid, up until my 20s, it was prohibitively difficult to own a copy of a movie unless I was willing to get something on like an original film reel or something like that. Owning a copy of a movie was crazy difficult. And it wasn't until VHS came in that we started getting that option. But my native environment for my development, until my brain fully developed, was a place where I could not own a movie. That's possibly one of the reasons why I collect them now, apart from being a big movie buff and people send me movies and all that kind of stuff. But that's probably where that comes from. And how I feel when I browse the shelves is that A, there's a lot of stuff here. B, there's a lot of stuff I love here. But the C is I don't love everything in the collection. I'm going to have to start filtering that out, not just for shelf space, but also to kindle the fire of my love of these particular movies. And that's a little bit unusual because for me, it was at the time was just get the movies, get the movies, get the movies. But now it's curating the collection. Carol says, I have stupidly sensitive feet, can't even walk on the beach as it's painful. I've seen your beaches. Half of them are full of stones, Carol. Sandy beaches, love them. Stony beaches are weird because we don't have that many of them here. Deb says, curating collections is a great way to go. It is. And, it keeps me busy. I can get some steps in walking around those shelves and picking out things. And the thing I'm going to do too, and I can only do this locally because sending people movies is prohibitively expensive. I did that thing at the end of the year where I had a raffle for the Patreon people. And I had 20 movies as a prize. And I had to send that to the middle of America, and it cost me like $90. So sending people movies is prohibitively difficult in our modern benighted era. Teleportation ain't a thing yet. And so what I'm doing is finding people locally that I see on a fairly regular basis that I can gift movies that either I get a duplicate because Umbrella or Imprint send me another copy of it, or else something that I don't particularly want anymore, but I know that they will. So I'm doing that. For Sale says, I sorted out my DVD collection last year. I had fun doing it. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be part of it, is that fun and that enjoyment, and also the generosity, the feel-good part of it, giving other people movies. I mean, I got the Blu-ray set of Night Gallery sent to me this month by Imprint. It's a fantastic set. You saw the video. And I talked to Julian from Collector Creations channel, who I see regularly. And I said, do you want a copy of Night Gallery on DVD? And he went, yeah, because Julian is that kind of geeky freak who will like a 1970s horror TV series. And so next time I see Julian, I'm going to give him the DVD box set of Night Gallery, which is still a good collection. It just doesn't have all the bells and whistles that the new Blu-ray collector's edition has. So there's all of that kind of thing. And I've got friends I give things to regularly because I get an upgrade. I had a Criterion edition of Eyes Without a Face, but then the Umbrella version came out, which was better curated and had a lot more stuff in it. And I gave my copy of Eyes Without a Face to a friend I knew would appreciate it. So that's going to be part of my process. Before I do that, I really should do a tour of the collection. And I think I might do that for one of the videos I'm stacking, because next week I'm going to be away from the keyboard for a week, maybe 2 weeks. I might have time to do video, so I'm trying to get one a day done between now and then in order to have enough content to keep the channel churning. Deb says, and the rediscovery of things forgotten, the hidden gem, literal hidden gem. Yeah. Going through the bottom shelves is the one where I go down and get a chair or crouch down, which is increasingly hard as time goes on. And I look at things and go, oh, shit, I've got to rewatch that. I've got to rewatch that Indonesian superhero movie. I've got to rewatch something else. Rediscovering your own stuff is a lot of fun. I've got boxes and boxes of science fiction novels I've got to sort through because I am winnowing things down. And I know I'm going to go, oh, I've got a copy of that and keep it and treasure it. So Deb says, yeah, I want to see the collection. And Dealey says, I need to remind myself what I have in my collection. Yeah, I'm fortunate. I've got an app on my phone where I scan the barcodes. And that gives me a in my pocket list of what I've got in the collection. It's really useful. I think it's called CLZ Movie Collector or something like that. I pay $20 Australian a year to keep it going and to keep the cloud storage of it going. But yeah, it's something I'm going to do, and I'm not just getting rid of everything. I'm not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, but I am going to refine the collection. And I think that's a kind of grown-up thing to do, rather than just grabbing everything because everything's available. It's like a buffet. You go to a buffet restaurant. You don't put everything on your plate. You curate your plate, and that's what I'm going to be doing with this stuff. Frony says, just started rewatching The Dark Room with James Coburn as host. Horror anthology show, only 7 episodes with 16 stories. The first story is especially on point. 40 plus years later, a TV reporter replaced by AI. Yep. Ralph says library thing is free. You can do the same thing with movies, not just books. Thanks for that tip, Ralph. I'll keep a note of that because I do want to curate the books. And also, I mean, thinking catastrophically, if we had a house fire and the house burnt down, I've got to tell the insurance company what I've got. And for the movies, that's going to be simple. For other things, less so. I can just, download a spreadsheet of the movies that I had, so that when I make an insurance claim, should the worst possible scenario happen, I've got proof that I had it. Which is one of the reasons people do that. Mostly, I just look at it in a thrift store and go, "Do I have a copy of that? Yeah, I've got it on Blu-ray. I don't need this DVD, or I've got it on DVD. I need to upgrade to a Blu-ray." There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on. So that curation is going to be a process, an ongoing process, rather than a destination. I'm not going to go up the back and go here and take things off the shelf and go, there, I'm done. I think it's a process you go through. And when I go up to the shelves, have it in my mind that when I'm looking for something, I'm also looking for things I don't need and things I can gift or give to a charity store. Doing a little bit of that. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, this one's kind of tangential to movies, but it's kind of funny as well. The Australian government's done some things where they've banned kids under 16 from social media, though the kids do find workarounds for that. And there are a lot of people gnashing their teeth. And yeah, it is a problem for particularly marginalised youth, LGBTQIA plus kids and things like that under the age of 16. I understand those problems, but they've done it. And kids will find their way around it. But for the most part, they've put guide rails for computer use for kids under 16. The other thing they've done is told all of the adult video companies who stream adult content that they need to put in age verification so that the people who are watching their stuff have to be over 18. And that came in, and the major companies who offer that kind of video have complied. And so anybody in Australia who goes to their sites, you can do a facial scan to make sure that you are over the age of 18, and they have an AI thing that scans you. And yes, there are privacy concerns with that. They also have, you can do a driver's license if you're stupid. But that's happened, and a lot of people are gnashing their teeth about that. And it's not just guys, because I know women access adult material as well, and good on them, and other people of various diverse genders. The take-up rate of VPNs in Australia has skyrocketed. It has got enormously popular to have a virtual private network software on your TVs and computers, so that you can make your location anonymous. It's people working around local ordinances. And so VPN companies love Australia at the moment. They're getting crazy business because the Australian government has put in this age protection thing. And fair enough too. I mean, I don't want kids accessing things that show an unnuanced view of human sexuality. And there are a lot of problematic aspects to that as well. But on the other hand, let the kids do what I had to do. I had to go 30 kilometres to get adult material when I was 16. And yes, I'd put on a deep voice when I went up to the counter at a sex shop in King's Cross in Sydney and availed myself of reading material. Let them have to do that. Let them search for it. Let them become hunter-gatherers again. If they want to access that stuff, it's widely available anyway. And for people who do like adult material, it's another reason to have a physical media collection. But yeah, that's happening here in Australia, and it's kind of interesting and somewhat amusing as well. Let's see where we are. The chat seems to have stalled. And I've just bookmarked the library thing as well, so there's that. Ralph's here, that's good. Yeah, so weird stuff here in Australia as far as that stuff's concerned. But it's good that the companies have complied with the law, because they would have got fined, and I'm not sure how they get fined, but they would have got fined. Okay, yeah, they got something called Libby as well, DB Cooper, but library thing I'll check out at some stage and start cataloging the books as well. And there are more books than there are movies, but they're all in boxes in the man cave behind all that stuff I put up when I normally do a live stream. But yeah, it's a year of curating my collections, let's say. Okay, do we want to do what I've been watching? Because I've got stuff I've been watching, surprisingly enough. I've been watching things. Some of them I may do full videos on. Friday says, picked up some DVDs, mostly to fill some holes in my collection, mostly from ditching my VHS tapes a few years back. Brazil, Blazing Saddles, Bright Young Things. So you're going through the Bees and Kingsman, Elvis and GI Blues. Give them the boot, a punk documentary. Cool. It sounds like a good way to do it, is to fill the gaps. But yeah, I mean, things like the Star Trek movies, I've got like the first 6 Star Trek movies, 3 of them on 4K. Ralph says, library things are both a website and an app. The app is for scanning function for rapidly adding to a collection. Cool. I'll figure all that stuff out. But yeah, so curating rather than collecting is the way we're going at the moment. What have I been watching? Let's see. How far back do I go? I did watch The Witches of Eastwick. I'll talk about that. I went to the Cinemaniacs session in the cinema at the Astor last week, in fact, to see The Witches of Eastwick. Dodgy CGI, very unnuanced as far as female sexuality is concerned. It's got a lot to say about toxic male sexuality, but I think it's 1987, maybe 1990. It doesn't have a lot of nuance when it comes to female sexuality, in spite of having three beautiful women in the main roles. So I watched that. Had a good time. Didn't win the raffle, which disappointed me. Then I found on YouTube, in fact, The Werewolf of Washington, starring Dean Stockwell as a presidential advisor who becomes a werewolf. It's very Watergate era, this one. I saw it for the first time in a cinema in North Sydney, where at that time cinemas were just grabbing any content they could. It was the 1970s. It's kind of okay, but it's got very 1970s specific references in the jokes. So unless you're very au fait with the Watergate scandal and Nixon's administration, there are going to be bits that leave you going, huh? But it's kind of fun to revisit. I didn't mind it. It's not something I'd ever search out a physical copy of. If it fell into my lap, yeah, but I wouldn't really search it out. But Friday says, yes, what have you been watching? Do any of them start with Q and then with Wolf? No, I haven't got Curse of the Queer Wolf yet. I keep promising you that, and I don't deliver. I'm sorry. But I will, at some stage this year, watch The Curse of the Queer Wolf. Then I watched some movies for the imprint releases that came out. So Hobson's Choice with Charles Lawton. I saw The Old Dark House, James Whale's version of it, again with Charles Lawton. And I watched Foreign Correspondent, the Hitchcock film with Joel McRae and Lorraine Day, I think it is. And George Sanders is in that as well. So I watched those. And I've talked about them when I did the imprint unboxing. D. Lee says, Witches of Eastwick, is Nicholson doing his post-shining grinning maniac act again? Yeah, I think that's what sold it. It was a weird film because George Miller made it, the guy who made the Mad Max movies, suddenly makes this like northeastern USA specific story based on a John Updike novel. I don't think it hits that well. DB Cooper says, a long time here in the northwest of the state, we had a book supply called Lymphatics. They specialized in risque books, Anarchist Cookbook, books on gaslighting, books on making silences, etc. I may have one or two of those books myself from Lymphatics. It was fun to have the catalogue and just see the wild things they supplied. Yeah, I do have several books from Lymphatics without going into details. I've got an eclectic book collection, let's just put it that way. So I saw those imprint movies. Then I watched a movie that I think it's on Netflix called War Machine, starring Alan Ritchson, who is in the Reacher series. Big, pumped up guy about a bunch of Army Ranger recruits who have been recruited from other areas of the military in the US, who go on their final test to become Army Rangers and encounter an alien war machine. It's not good. Not that great at all. Special effects are good. The monster effects of this giant mecha machine are reasonable. And the funny thing for me is they filmed a lot of it here in Victoria. The place where the Army Ranger base is in the movie is about 6 kilometres from my house. It's over in Laverton. I walked past it when I did my walking from Werribee to Melbourne video on the other channel. And they filmed a lot of it up in Bright in the in the mountain ranges about 150 kilometers east of Melbourne. So it's really weird to see things in this movie which is supposed to be made in the USA, but actually wasn't. Yeah, Dev says, "Oh, War Machine, it was horrible." Yeah, it's not good at all. It's got all the plot beats you expect to have in a movie like that. Some of it was filmed in New Zealand, and you can see the New Zealand locations and recognize them. But War Machine, I don't recommend. It was one of those things. I was sitting on the couch going, okay, what am I going to watch? Scroll through the algorithms, and War Machine came out, so I thought, give it a go. Didn't enjoy it. Now we're getting into things I'm going to be doing a full video on. So just be aware of that. I'm not going to talk about them much because I don't want to take away the fun of them. I watched Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, which is a apocalyptic AI movie. Very gonzo. Gore Verbinski directed it. But have fun. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die with Sam Rockwell. It's great. It's got some really interesting subplots. Michael Pena's in it. A bunch of other people. Juno Temple. And the plot threads, they do the backstory of various characters in it. Basic setup is a bunch of people in a diner. Guy walks in weird gear and says, "I'm a time traveler and I need a team of you people in this diner to come with me to stop an AI apocalypse in the next few hours. And I've done this 117 times before, and you've all died the previous 117 times." It's great. It's imaginative. It's fun. It's silly. It's got plot twists. It's got gore and guts in the good kind of way. It's hilarious in parts. It's tragic in parts. It really gives us good science fiction. And, there are things like there's a school shooting and Juno Temple's character loses a child. And she's given a card and she goes to this place saying, "Yeah, we can clone your kid. And we'll give you a menu of character traits. So the clone will reflect the character of your child." And there are people who have been through this 8 times with their kids because school shootings are a big thing in America. And one of them goes, "Yeah, we decided to have fun this time. So we gave him a whole bunch of weird traits. We made him 7 foot tall and clumsy." Really harsh social satire in this movie, but it still works. I really enjoyed it. A lot of people didn't like the third act, but I loved it. Deb says about War Machine, the core premise is pretty good. Like the CGI and love the locations, yeah. And Jeff and I wanted a Saturday night movie. War Machine wasn't a good choice. And Friday says War Machine is the same pro-Republican view. Bad science fiction that Chris Pratt also fall into making. Richard is more watchable than Pratt. Yeah, absolutely. And and it is like pro-military. And I'm very aware of that when I'm watching any content with any military content from the USA. Is it trying to spin a story? Is it trying to be propaganda? And I think War Machine does that. And that's to its detriment. Forsyth says, when we're going to see another Terry Troubles? I'm recording one this afternoon. I've got an hour when I'm dropping Sal off for an appointment. And I'm finding a nice place in the middle of like densely populated suburban inner Melbourne. And I found an oasis in the middle of things. And it's a place I've been to before. When I did the Werribee to Melbourne walk, I went through Newport. And there's an oasis in Newport that looks really cool. I haven't been there. I'm going to go there today. So that's when we're going to get another Terry Travels. Sometime this week when I edit. And Ralph says, did anyone see Cold Storage? I really enjoyed the book. It's only just come out here. I probably will watch it at some stage and review it, but I haven't watched it yet. But yeah, this week I'm going to be seeing a whole bunch of things like Project Hail Mary I want to see. I do want to see Cold Storage. A couple of other things coming up that I really want to hit at the local. but it just depends on time because I'm really going to be stacked this week. And editing is a little more difficult on this laptop than on my normal machine because it takes a lot longer for the laptop to render the video. Because I always do my videos in 4K, and I'm not reducing the quality of the videos. I'm trying to future-proof the channel, and so everything's in 4K, but it just takes a lot longer to do it on this machine. But I definitely want to see cold storage. Okay, let's have a look. So I will do a full review of Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Then I watched Troll 2 on YouTube, which is the sequel to the Norwegian movie Troll, not Troll 2, the old 1980s really bad movie. DB Cooper says, I love the Terry Travels videos. Living here in the States, we're trained to feel the world centers on us. It's nice to discover these lovely cities that barely hit the radar here. Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to do too. Just walk around, shoot the shit, show you things. It's not particularly going to be a long video this time, but I'm going to try to make it worth it. And hopefully it doesn't rain. If it rains, I'm going to be delayed. But I do want to hit this little oasis I found in Newport. Yeah, so I saw Troll 2, which is a sequel to Trolls, about trolls in the north in particular of Norway. It's a direct sequel to the first one. There's a recap at the start of the video if you want it as well. I saw the first one. But I like it. It's very Norwegian specific, so it's got a lot of cultural references. We've got a rogue troll heading to Trondheim and is going to smash it because the thing that destroyed the trolls originally was Christianity. And they trolls hate symbols of Christianity and church bells and things like that. It's fun. It's an honest little fun Scandinavian kaiju movie, Norwegian kaiju movie. And I like the fact that it's culturally specific. Don't like the fact that everybody's very cold in the movie. But Troll 2 is worth checking out. It's not pro-military very much because the stuff they try to do to combat this rogue troll with their specially kitted out helicopters doesn't work. And what does work eventually is thinking outside the box. And I like that. It was a fun movie to watch. Enjoyed it a lot. Ralph says, am I planning another long section hike like last winter? I've got some plans for that. I'm just kind of working out the details now, Ralph. What I might do is follow a rail line all the way from the edge of Melbourne to the city, but not one from my place. I might go up the Craigieburn line, though. I probably won't go as far as Craigieburn. But I'll do like coming north into the city from out in the outskirts. I'll do something like that. Haven't worked out the details yet. One of the things is I've got to work out distances between stations, and I've got to do it in such a way that it's going to be interesting visually, and I think I can do it. Just a matter of figuring that stuff out, but I will be doing it. And winter's a good time to do it because even though I do freeze my ass off, summertime, heat stroke's a possibility and sunburn's a possibility. But in winter, it may be the sweet time of year to do these kind of walks, and I can do them fairly regularly. But I just got to get over the next couple of weeks when I'm doing a lot of videos this week. I'm away from the keyboard and away from the microphone, away from the camera for 1 or 2 weeks after that. And then we move on to getting back in the game again. But I will be doing a long sectional hike this year. Probably, arguably, May might be a good spot. I did the last one in June, and I did it for all of June. And I think May's just that little bit warmer. So I may do it for that. And also, it's good cardio for me and good getting my steps in as well, which I need to do. Okay, so what else did I watch? Watched a little horror movie called Whistle, which has got a good concept. It's a good setup for a horror movie, and it does it kind of well. And it's gory as shit. It's got a very interesting queer romance in the middle of it, which is at the core of the movie. And the thing is, it's a bunch of high school kids who find an Aztec death whistle. This death whistle has a curse attached to it. Now, when you blow the whistle, anybody who hears the sound of this death whistle attracts their death. And the mythology of the movie is when you're born, your death is born at the same time. And it wanders the earth, but it can't find you until it's the moment when you're supposed to die, and then it finds you. The interesting thing here is your death looks like you will like when you die. So if you die young, you will look like you're young. But if you die old, you will look like you were, it will look like you do when you die old. And it will kill you and make you look like you died old. Because the whistle shortcuts your life. The sound of the whistle attracts your death to you prematurely, and it turns you into what you would be at the time you died. It's got an interesting cast. Nick Frost's in there, Daphne Keane, who played the little Wolverine clone in Logan. She's now 21 years old. Great concept for a movie and a creepy one, and it works well. At the start of it, you see Nick Frost playing a school teacher who smokes, and his death is him dying of lung cancer 15 years in the future with like chemotherapy, everything, loses a lot of weight. He's wearing a hospital gown, not looking well. And his death turns him into that. Nice little film whistle. If you can see it, see it. If you're into horror movies, you're going to enjoy it. I think it's an honest, small horror movie. Doesn't get a lot of rating. It isn't really loved by a lot of people, but I found it kind of interesting, and I like the characters. I like the idea of it, and doing a horror movie that's just that little bit different is something that I'm very much in favor of. So you might want to check out Whistle. It actually got recommended to me by Spooky Astronaut's YouTube channel. She enjoyed the movie, and I thought, that looks interesting, I'm going to check it out. And I had a good time with it. And that's pretty much all I've watched. I'll tell you what I'm going to watch this week. I'll bring up my local cinema and tell you the stuff that's already out in my cinema. And then I'm going to watch. So I'm going to select cinema. You guys can't see this, but got to select my cinema, find sessions. Avatar's still showing. Cold Storage is out, so I might try to check out Cold Storage this week. Scrolling down, which is not interesting for you, but it is for me. They've got a Peaky Blinders movie. Never watched Peaky Blinders, but I know some people like it. Scream 7, yeah, I'm going to watch that when it comes out on streaming. The Bride's out. I've got to watch The Bride. Maggie Gyllenhaal's twist on the Frankenstein story. And anything else coming up? Anything else currently in cinemas? Hang on, Project Hail Mary's already out, I think. Let me have a look here. Is it? No, it comes out on Thursday here in Australia, so we'll be reviewing that this week. And let's see, anything else? A lot of movies showing at my local. Gold Class, the posh cinema where they give you food. They're showing on the Friday, April 17th, which happens to be my birthday. They're showing The Godfather, and they'll bring food to your seat. That's weird. What has anybody been watching that they recommend? I'll throw it back at you guys and just see, because I'm always good for recommendations. Allowing Friday for Curse of the Queer Wolf. But I am looking forward to Project Hail Mary, because that kind of science fiction is definitely in my wheelhouse. Friday says, Peaky Blinders filmed in Birmingham. I've never seen an episode. Yeah, neither have I. Yeah, brutal men being brutal. It's not my favorite genre. I grew up with that shit. Don't need to see it now. I'm sure it's done well, and I know the acting is great in it, but no, not for me. Cillian Murphy, of course, fantastic actor, but not my jam. The other thing is, never watched anything by Taylor Sheridan. He's doing all of these American mythologizing rich Americans in the West kind of shows. That shit doesn't hit for me either. Force, I was currently watching Mike Hammer's 1958 show starring Darren McGavin, 78 episodes. That's a good call. Ralph says, I had to program my own Friday the 13th because the local cinema showed 3 and 4 were sold out. Can't be too mad about the cause. It'll encourage the theatres to show old movies more. And they do. I mean, I remember that Reading Cinemas at Millers Junction showed Die Hard Christmas Before Last. That stuff hits. We'll get an audience if you pitch the right movie in the right way. D. Lee says, I saw the first few series of Peaky Blinders, but it got silly very quickly. Yeah, not my jam. Deb watched the 1983 Lou Ferrigno Hercules last week. I love that movie, but really like the DVD copy. Yeah, that movie is. You've seen Hercules in New York with Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice dubbed from 1970? If you want a bad one, that's the one to watch, Deb. Hercules in New York. I think it may be on YouTube, but I think it's the first starring role by Arnold. And it's gloriously bad. So, yeah, Lou Ferrigno, I never liked the Hulk series he did with Bill Bixby. Yep, Ralph says Arnold Schwarzenegger and Arnold Stang. Yeah. A buddy movie with Hercules and little Arnold Stang. He was in Top Cat. No, he did a lot of voice work as an actor, a little weedy actor, kind of like a team of Wally Cox. But, yeah, just a weird thing. By the way, super chats, fart guns, and the Wonder Camera are still available. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, definitely check out Hercules in New York. You may curse me, you may thank me. Just let me know. By the way, Deb didn't ask what the weather was down there. I haven't done a weather report. What's the weather like where you guys are at the moment? Here we might get rain today, which may ruin my idea to get a Terry Travels video done. But we'll see. So what is the weather? We're like an hour and a half into the live stream and I haven't asked people what the weather is. Ralph says, always love Arnold Stang from the best scene in the Mad, 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 Mad World with Jonathan Winters. Yeah, there was a third guy in there. There was Arnold Stang. There was Jonathan Winters. Was it Wally Cox the third guy? FG says it's 1 degree centigrade and snowy. Yeah, fortunately we don't do snowy here because I definitely would fall down on my ass. I see so many videos of particularly North American people climbing down off their front steps, usually with an enormous cup of coffee in their hand, in a flask, falling on their asses. There must be like a lot of back surgery done because of those bloody things. Dick says it was bright sunny start to the day, but it clouded up and finished on wind and rain. Well, that's England for you, Dick. There's lots of people on YouTube from your part of the world too. There's Kermit's Ghost is in Brighton, for instance, and he does a weekly video. And he's a really nice guy, Alan. A lot people on the South Coast, and there's Marek Larwood on the Isle of Wight doing walking videos. A lot of YouTubers from down your part of the world. DB Cooper says, dry grey, 50 degrees Fahrenheit here in Portland, Oregon war zone. Went through Portland once. Looked like a nice town. I really didn't get the chance to stay. Deb says, misty and warm in Nipaluna, Hobart this morning. From what I see, Deb, you're going to get some of our rain. Somebody told me that down in Larifwa, you're going to get some snow this week as well. Early snow. Ralph says, Marvin Kaplan, the other gas station attendant, after Phil Silvers told him Jonathan Winters was insane. Yeah, it was Marvin Kaplan. I was wrong. Marvin Kaplan and Arnold Stang as the gas station attendants. Every comedian was in that. It was just like, let's chuck everybody into this movie and just see what happens and kill a stuntman. It's a mad. I've got the Criterion edition of that, and I'm happy with that. But it's like there should be a drinking competition. Every time a new comedian comes in, you have a drink, and then you die of cirrhosis of the liver about the time Jim Backus turns up. Franny says, not sure on the weather. I slept through the day today. It's been extra windy recently. Yeah, that's what I hear from up in your part of the world. Yeah, but not looking forward to the cooler weather. We didn't get a particularly hot summer. We got a couple of days when it was over 40 degrees. But usually we get a bit more because we're getting a lot more air currents from the south on the ocean. And so that means we get like weirdly off and on summers. Kabbalistical said, I watched God Told Me To on YouTube. Fascinating film, excellently photographed and acted. Thanks for the recommendation. My pleasure. God Told Me To is a really good one. Dick says, hope to restart posting videos later this week. Didn't feel like it after the events of the week. That's understandable, Dick. You got to give yourself breathing space. Sal just started her YouTube channel again because she was dealing with the aftermath of us losing our niece. And she talks about that in the first video back, but she's back on the saddle as well. There are times with bereavement particularly where you've got to give yourself breathing space. Palmer Colson says, Kentucky, 22 degrees C and very windy, thunderstorms and a possible tornado tonight. I've been to Louisville. I went to Louisville in 1998. Nice people there. Got freaked out when I saw a firefly because I'd never seen one. And I thought I was having an acid flashback, but it turns out it was a firefly. Dilly says, Mad World is one of my go-to comfort comedies. Yeah, I can see that. But very full on. I think it loses it at the end when it's just like, let's just take this to 11 and the Three Stooges turn up and all that kind of shit. I think it kind of goes a little too much. But for the most part, I agree with you. It's a great film. For Sale says, Arnold Schwarzenegger was also in an episode of Streets of San Francisco in which he was mocked for his huge muscles. Yeah, I saw that one. Capitalist of God Told Me To is correct. Says Deb, it is. Larry Cohen movies tend to be at least interesting and great when they're great. Ralph says 25 degrees in Clearwater, Florida, and humid AF already. Yep, it would be if it's 25 degrees in Florida. Usually it is kind of like that. Florida's got the best crime novels too. It has had since the 1960s. But yeah, here, what's it going to be today? Let me have a look. It's going to be probably about 18 degrees with some showers, which is getting back down a little bit. Warmer later in the week, which is good. But 18 degrees with possible showers. I'm going to put this hood up and see if I can get that video done today. Down at Newport for the other channel. But I've also got to do one for this channel. Actually, today, this counts as today's video for this channel. But I've got some plans. I did this weird thing where I had an idea for a video. It's a good idea. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's a good idea. And I started writing a script for it. I don't usually script. I'm usually off the cuff. But I started scripting and realized this is going to be a long video. I've bitten off more than I can chew with this video. I still want to do it, but it's going to be like an hour long. So I'm kind of working on that and working out how best to do that while I've got to do all this other stuff as well. For instance, Streets of San Francisco, top tier music theme. I miss the cool themes from TV shows. Yeah, they were great. Deb's watching the first episode of Scarpetta. It was okay, but not brilliant. I'm going back to that thing of mine where people like Nicole Kidman have paralyzed their faces. We know that. That's what Botox is. It's facial paralysis. And I was kind of comparing it with Hobson's Choice, which I watched last week. And part of the fun of Hobson's Choice is the expressions on the faces of the actors. John Mills, Charles Lawton, Brenda DeBanzi, and how you can see the thoughts of the characters reflected in their facial expressions. You can't do that with Nicole Kidman anymore. One of her first films is coming out on Blu-ray from Umbrella and BMX Bandits when she was young. Looks like a totally different person. And I think it's just so crucial, particularly for actors, to have faces that move, to have faces where the thoughts of the actors are on the screen. We've got 4K definition now for most things. That shit gets noticed. And we don't relate to the characters as well unless we can enjoy their micro expressions and their facial expressions. Friday says the rain has just started. And Carol says, you have a very noisy bird there. Yeah, we've got birds in the backyard. I've got the back door a little bit open so the cats can come in and out. And you can hear the pigeons and other birds in the background. We've got a couple of trees. Got a big tree in the front yard and a few along the side. The lily pillies along the side. We tried to kill the lily pillies. We thought, we don't want to have trees along the fence line on the side. So we cut back the lily pillies and they grew back. They were like the mafia. They pulled us back in. Tristan says it's a shame because Nicole Kidman's such a great actor. I mean, it's her choice what she does to herself. But I think it diminishes her art. And she is a good actress. But I think it diminishes your art when you do that. And with actors who do the Botox and the facial filler and all the other jazz, you can see them trying to act through what they've done. And part of their attention is on emoting through kind of like Edith Scobb in Eyes Without a Face level of facial enhancement, let's say. And I think it's sad. Carol says, mad the other side of the planet and you have pigeons too. Yeah, sky rats are everywhere. We also get a lot of other birds. We get Australian ibises. We get a lot of galahs and cockatoos and other things like that in the local area. D-Lee says, the very end of The Long Good Friday relies on Bob Hoskins' facial expressions. Couldn't act that with Botox. It's one of the great non-verbal scenes in a movie. Just Harold Shand figuring it out and coming to terms with it. Just the best. And you can't take your eyes off it. Dennis says, re Star Trek, the best piece of media they released last year was the audio drama Star Trek Khan. Okay, cool. You really got to check out Starfleet Academy if you haven't, Dennis. It's I just love really good acting these days. And all of those actors do a fantastic job of it. Deb says, yeah, the scenes with Kidman and Jamie Lee Curtis, it was very noticeable how mobile Jamie Lee Curtis' face was compared to Nicole. Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, I love. She has let herself be her age. And it hasn't fucked up her career one tiny bit. She is that level of actor. And yes, she is a nepo baby to a certain extent. Her parents were Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis. But she stands alone. She stands on her own 2 feet there. And I will watch anything with her in it because she's the real deal. She's an honest dealer with an audience. And she can play tragedy. She can play comedy incredibly well. She can play drama. She can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned in her art. Deb says, we also have native pigeons here too, Carol. Yeah, we do. They're native pigeons. They're not introduced species here. We do have them in the cities. But I think the cats thin them out here. But the native pigeons are a little bit smarter. But we get a lot of bird life in here because when we first moved here 25 years ago nearly, this was one of those suburbs that hadn't grown the trees yet. They were all fairly new houses at the time. But now we've got a lot of trees and the birds are here. And all of the birds from the countryside, which isn't far away from where I live, come in, and you get flocks of sulfur-crested cockatoos just grazing after rain. You get herds of sulfur-crested cockatoos in the median strips, just picking out the worms and the bugs. You'll see that all the time here. We've got such a beautiful, diverse bird life here in Australia. Carol says, I think Jamie Lee is stunning too. People need to accept aging as natural and a privilege not everyone gets. Absolutely. Carol says, next door has racing pigeons. I love the sound of them cooing. Yeah, I can see that. D. Lee says, watching Jamie Lee Curtis and Everything Everywhere All at Once last week, and saw she's clearly comfortable being an older character actor. That's how you get a career without spending a lot of time bruised in hospital. Dennis says, we're totally on the same page with Starfleet Academy is concerned. Frakes directed the hell out of episode 9, in my opinion. More later in the comments after the live stream ends. Cheers. Thank you, Dennis. The other thing, too, is Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner have their own YouTube channel. It's called Dropping Names, and they just sit there interviewing people and talking to people. And they ring a little bell every time somebody in the chat between the three actors, usually it's actors, drops a name. And it's fun. These guys are just sitting back and having a good time talking to shit. They had Seth MacFarlane on there and they were all talking about musicals. Worth your while to check out Dropping Names. Deb says, I agree, Jamie Lee Curtis is fantastic. Franny says to Dennis, Frakes worked on episode 9 was awesome. Yeah, Frakes is a really good director. And yeah, he likes working in TV and he does things at his own pace. I mean, he's 70 now. So, he's not going to be going out and trying to prove something the way Spielberg is with that stupid new UFO movie he's making. He does well, and he seems to be an interesting guy, along with Brent Spiner. They just sit in these two Ottoman armchairs, interview the person on the Ottoman couch, and have fun while they all sip whiskey, which has got to be the sweetest life. But yeah, Frakes is underrated as a director. He knows how to make a Star Trek series, and he also is incredibly knowledgeable about stage work. And one of the things I noticed, particularly in 9 and 10, the last 2 episodes of Starfleet Academy, in a good way, they feel like theatrical performances because you have to be over the top. Nus Braka, the character played by Paul Giamatti, is Shakespearean. He's a really nasty villain, and there's a reason for his villainy. It goes back to his childhood. But it feels like a stage play in the best way in the last 2 episodes of Star Trek Starfleet Academy first season. And on that, I was kind of thinking, maybe Shatner was right to play Star Trek like a theatrical performance. Yes, he did it for his own ego, of course. But and of course, Patrick Stewart being a Shakespearean actor from the RSC. Star Trek, in its set pieces, should be a theatrical thing. It should be like a theatrical performance. It should let the actors be expansive and to really land the dialogue. Hey, Doug, how you doing? Dropping Names is fun, says Doug. Their action seems unpretentious. Good guys. Rare for actors, yeah. Deb says, Dropping Names had Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And the announcement came this morning that Firefly's getting an animated season 2. That's good news. I did like Firefly, allowing for Joss Whedon being a prick. Firefly season 2, definitely up for that. And the thing is that if you look around Australian thrift stores and op shops, You may well find a DVD box set of Firefly there somewhere because they do turn up a lot. Deb says Frakes is a really fine director. Absolutely. And he knows more musical songs than I do, songs from musicals than I do. And that's saying something. Friday says, thoughts on the Firefly reboot? Not that we know anything yet, but now we know the original was a pro-Confederate piece of work. I'm not so keen. I don't know that it was pro-Confederate because the browncoats were in the right. They were invaded. They're more like a country that America invaded than the South. I think the browncoats are definitely a different kind of thing. And I'm there for that. I like the ensemble. My head's itchy in this hat, but I'll take it off. I like the world building. The verse is an interesting place. The enemies, I mean, I really did like Serenity, the movie version, that had Chiwetel Ejiofor as an enforcer for the big bad. And again, that's a theatrical acting role. And I think space opera lends itself to expansive acting and expansive plot lines as well. Deb says, apparently Whedon has no involvement, but has given his blessing / permission. He's probably got the rights, so they threw him some bucks and told him to go away, which is the right thing to do. But yeah, the ensemble works and characters were really well bedded down. They can't go with Book anymore because the actor has died. And I'm not sure they should go with Jane because the guy playing him was a right-wing nutjob. And like in the worst possible way, he docks somebody, which is egregious behaviour. But yeah, I'm there for Firefly as an animated series, depending, of course, on the style of animation. If they make it too anime, it's not going to play well. But if they make a decent style of animation that suits the material, it's going to be fine. Friday says the Browncoats are based on a book of stories of Confederate soldiers returning after the Civil War, and that was Whedon's inspiration. He said this. Another reason he's a prick, isn't it? Because I see the Browncoats as something different. But if Whedon said that, then that was his inspiration. It shows how wrong-headed he is in a number of ways. And I think this season 2 we're going to get as an animated season is going to veer away from that inspiration because why the hell wouldn't you? Dave says Serenity was a really good movie. Yeah, it works as a standalone, as a continuation. And I really like the spaceship designs. I like the idea of it as a space western in a way, where there are still all of these little terraformed planetoids with artificial gravity and a whole bunch of diverse cultures, and the idea of a kind of Sino-English language culture developing, where people use loan words from both languages and from a number of other languages. That stuff works. But I hate when I like something and the person who created it is a total shit. But I don't have it in me not to acknowledge that. Friday says they're going with Jane from the clips Nathan Fillion's been doing. Agree the actor is a piece of shit. He came up with the term Gamergate. Yeah. I really have a problem with people punching downwards, and increasingly as time goes on. I think that's not a bad moral compass to start with, not as like a final arbiter of where your head's at. But if you look at where people are punching when there is a disagreement on a large scale, global scale, individual scale, whatever it is, if you're punching down to people who have less than you, and you're punching down to people who are in a fragile state and marginalized, you're the baddie. There's no question about that. And this increasing tendency for privileged people to position themselves as the victims is a dangerous thing in our world. It's at least as dangerous as AI is, and they're using AI to do this. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on that they're using AI. I saw a very, very plausible AI of Rachel Maddow that somebody sent me yesterday. And I did my due diligence and said, don't believe what that one's saying. It's AI. Don't believe that they're going to invoke the 25th Amendment and that it's all happening in real time, which was what the video was about. I said to this friend of mine, who's an older lady, it's AI. Don't believe this shit. Look for multiple sources of information. And yes, it's a pain in the ass that news things aren't reliable. But look for multiple sources of information about anything. And look for who's punching downwards. D-Lee says, speaking of Whedon TV, so to see the revival of Buffy with Chloe Zhao has come to nothing. Yeah, I like Chloe as a director. I mean, I even liked Eternals. But, yeah, I never liked the idea of a Buffy remake. Maybe Whedon needs the money. Forsar says, have any favourite movie soundtracks? So many of them. I mean, just off the top of my head, I like Morricone's soundtrack to Danger Diabolic, which is very groovy. I like Jerry Goldsmith's soundtrack to the Flint movies, which is fantastic. I like the soundtrack to Privilege with Paul Jones singing those songs. Modesty Blaze soundtrack is really good. A lot of the early Bond soundtracks and some of the later ones are good. There's a period during Roger Moore's tenure where the soundtracks got a bit mid, well into the Pierce Brosnan era. But I like a good Bond soundtrack with that brassy instrumentation in it. Love all of that stuff. Let's see what else is soundtrack. I like a lot of blaxploitation soundtracks as well. Willie Hutch's soundtrack for Foxy Brown's really good. And of course, Isaac Hayes and Curtis Mayfield, Superfly. There's just so many good soundtracks out there. Friday says, Once Upon a Time in the West for a good soundtrack. For Sales is Get Carter, the one with Sylvester Stallone. Okay, cool. Deb says, yeah, Adam Baldwin's a piece of shit, as is Whedon, but I will always love what made despite their involvement. Having said that, I doubt if I'll ever read any more Neil Gaiman books. I spent the night getting drunk with Neil Gaiman in your town. Yep. In Hadley's Hotel. We were there for a convention. I just won an award. One of the two I've ever won. And we're all sitting around. There was me, Gaiman, who else was there? Kimberly Stanley Robinson, a bunch of other people. Just sitting around the bar at Hadley's Hotel getting drunk. And he had a weird vibe then. Kim Stanley Robinson, a great utopian science fiction writer. Fantastic guy. Stan is a really interesting man. But Gaiman had that kind of insistent intensity that puts me off. But Stan was charming and wonderful. Jeff, I think we're totally in sync with this one, says Friday. Yeah, Gaiman was a piece of shit and still is a piece of shit. And he keeps doing these things to try to regain his stature as a creative person, but he's never going to get it. He's suing people who have called him out on what he did to them. Again, not a good look. And again, that moral compass thing of where are they punching? And Gaiman is punching down. He never has to work again. He will survive and live a good, wealthy life if he never does anything again. The only thing at stake is his ego. Deb says, I also watched the first episode of the live-action One Piece. I think I'd like to watch the anime. You're going to spend the rest of your life doing that. There's like 1,000 episodes, literally, Deb. But go for it. Enjoy. But yeah, One Piece, I watched like the first 10 episodes of the anime, and I thought, if I keep doing this, I'm not going to do anything else. It's a rabbit hole, but it's a fun one. And went to the One Piece. There's a One Piece cafe in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. Don't know if it's still there. But Sal and I went to the One Piece cafe, and they had like the best desserts, and it was Japanese style, of course. But it was all decked out with that. It was just a fun place to be. But yeah, those long range anime, the long run animes, yeah, they can really suck you in. I do want to see series 2 of One Piece. Not One Piece, One Punch Man, because I like One Punch Man. I like Saitama, the character, and I really like One Punch Man. So I've got to watch series 2 of that. What else? Really like Urusei Yatsura and Ranma Half and all those old classic 1980s anime. Deb says, "Lol, my partner said that about One Piece. Yeah, I hung up with Gaiman and Amanda Palmer a few times. They were both very, very intense. They were. But yeah, pieces of shit are going to remain pieces of shit. Whereas there are other people who have at least the stature of Neil Gaiman. George R.R. Martin is a really nice guy. Him and his partner are really, really grounded, fantastic people. And yes, in recent years, the fan intensity of him do the next novel kind of thing have made him a little more reclusive. But really nice guy. Back around the turn of the century, you go to a science fiction convention if he turned up and sit down and have a chat with George. I've got the first Game of Thrones novel autographed by him at the time in 1995. And George has remained a lovely person. He's renovating old cinemas and making them into revival cinemas and doing things like that with his money. And I love that. Really respect him. Deb likes Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Franny says, my friend was a PA for Kenneth Lee at a convention. She told me some comments Lee made about gaming. They seemed odd to me at the time, but now, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I remember back in the 80s, when the world was young and dinosaurs ruled the earth, I heard things about Arthur C. Clarke from the wife of a science fiction writer, a very prominent science fiction writer. Arthur C. Clarke went to Sri Lanka to live because he liked teenage boys. And nobody talks about that shit now. He got a knighthood. He's a little ting god to a lot of people. But I had to confirm by the writer himself. But Clarke went to Sri Lanka to live because he had a couple of near misses in the UK and headed out to Sri Lanka because of access to younger male people. And there are assholes like that in the world, and sometimes they get away with it their whole lives and after their lives. And I'm looking at you, Michael Jackson. We've gone a very dark path here, but we'll continue for the next 6 minutes. First bottle of water down, open the second one. Deb says, Gaiman ripped off both Kenneth Lee and Diana Wynne-Jones. Yeah, he did. And I liked a lot of his stuff. I mean, I like the Sandman graphic novels, for instance, and things like that. But for some reason, it wasn't difficult to cut him loose when I found out what he did to women. And maybe that's me, but it seemed easier than it should have been to cut him loose because, yeah, I'd met him. I'd heard things. Then people go, all the things I love are being ruined by these people. There are a lot of good people out there creating art of various kinds. There are musicians creating good music, and dancers and singers creating good music, and writers and actors and directors and lots of people who are creating good art and are good people. If somebody whose work you like proves themselves to be a piece of shit, find somebody else. You will find better people. You'll find people who suit what you like and suit what you do and suit who you are. And you don't have to separate the art from the person creating it to enjoy good art, to enjoy good music and good writing and good directing and good acting and good storytelling of all kinds. You just have to know where you stand. And yes, it's a pain in the ass to ditch all of the things you loved about a bad person's work, but it opens up the opportunity for a good person. Here we go. Franny, £2. Good luck on getting the computer fixed. Thank you, Franny. Here's your fart gun. And you also get the Wunderkammer. And from the Wunderkammer, I have my music box. It plays La Mer. Got a couple of music boxes. One's in the Wunderkammer. So thank you for that, Franny. Appreciate that. Every little bit helps with computer repairs. The thing I've got to go away and do for the next couple of weeks is going to help pay for that as well. We'll see how that goes, but I've got to get the big computer fixed because it is awkward doing everything on the laptop. And it's an older laptop. I don't know if you can hear the fan whirring, but the fans are whirring. But again, thank you, Franny. And I so owe you Curse of the Queer Wolf. It will happen. I promise you. It will happen. And I'm going to, maybe I can get a video out of that for this video I've got a stack for next week. You give me an idea, Franny. Leave it with me. So, yeah, this has been an interesting live stream. Music boxes in horror films are great. Music boxes in my Wunderkammer are great too. I've got a couple of them. Well, I forget what... it wasn't La Mer, it was Beyond the Sea. I got it wrong. It wasn't La Mer. I don't think so. D-Lee says, George R.R. Martin was also one of the early members of organised American comic fandom in the 60s. He was. George spent a lot of time being a jobbing writer who sold to magazines and things. His partner, Paris, is a lovely lady. Worked with him at that time. They're still together. They're still wonderful. And both great people. He paid his dues, and his art speaks to that. But yeah, I mean, I will always support people like George because they're friends of friends. I know somebody who's quite close to him, friend I've had for a long time, and I haven't heard a bad thing. And that speaks a lot. Deb says, I'm going to watch Hercules in New York later today. We'll let you know if I'm cursing or thanking me later. Yeah, well, I'll take either result on that one. But guess what, people? We really must knock that naughty clock that says it's time to go. It goes so fast. Our time has passed, and we must end our show. Thank you incredibly much to everybody who's been part of this one. My bum is sore from sitting in an uncomfortable chair for 2 hours, but my heart is warmed by the people who are part of this live stream. Franny says, George R. R. Martin's Wildcard series of fun helped a lot of writers. It did. He was very generous and inclusive. And I like the wildcards thing. Someone should do a series of wildcards. It's been on the cards for a long time, but it just hasn't happened. And I think wildcards would be a really good one. And it may give Marvel the shivers if it ever does eventuate, because it's a great concept, a great series. Okay, thanks, Dick. You have a good week, and you and Carol. And again, I am sorry about Roxy. Okay, I'll catch you guys later, and look after yourselves and live large.